The blueprint, study my movement, more than the 2 cents. Was losing, now I'm oozing with success. Now I got the tools to beat the stress. I lose cause I'm a step ahead of you.
Welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. Today we're going to be talking about NXT 2.0 Spring Breakin from May the 3rd, 2022. Now, before we get there, of course, we got to do as promised and talk about the NXT releases and all of the news that has taken place since the last episode of NXT. So, there were some releases from NXT April 29th, 2022. 10 superstars were released from NXT. The list consists of Dakota Kai, Dexter Loomis, Malcolm Bivens, Harland, Persia Pirotta, Sanjana George, Blair Baldwin, Draco Anthony, Raylan Devine, and Mila Malani. Most of these people, I have no idea who they were. Now, the sites, the internet was abuzz because Dakota Kai, Malcolm Bivens, and Dexter Loomis were released, as well as Harland. Now, in my SmackDown review, I did note that Harland and Persia Pirotta, I thought both had some potential, and they weren't given enough time. Now, when it comes to Harland, aka Parker Boudreaux, he seems to have been a guy that was kind of hyped up on the internet. WWE probably didn't have as much hype on him as that was ginned up by the internet. I know I was caught up in everything. We all got worked by Paul Heyman. You know, what ended up happening is the guy was a look. He looked a lot like Brock Lesnar. So WWE went out of their way to cover up everything that was Brock Lesnar about him. They put him in a goddamn suit in which covered up his entire physique. They shaved his head. Of course, they covered up his tattoos and everything. They gave him a character that required for him not to speak, for him to do nothing but stare and make facial expressions. And it seemed like Harland had potential. There was something about Harland that reminded everybody of Nails. And that wasn't necessarily a good thing, but it was a thing. So it seemed like WWE, because he was so heavily hyped by Paul Heyman, they put the guy behind the 8 ball. And in doing so, they pretty much sunk him because he never really got out of the box. Harland had probably, 3 or 4 matches on TV total. And that's the entire time he was there. Most of his character work consisted of him staring and leering and standing behind Joe Gacy and breathing heavily. He never got a chance to talk, never got a chance to really do anything. So for him, this obviously was their attempt to humble him because he was feeding into his own hype, doing the whole God killer thing on Twitter. And Paul Heyman again was very hyping him and had everybody all wrapped up in him. So it seemed like WWE decided, you know what? We're going to humble him and make him eat a little bit of shit. And he was going to have to work through it. But then they didn't even give him time to work through it. He was on the roster less than 6 months. I think he started in January. Around the same time, NXT 2.0 jumped off. And it hadn't been that long. I think he debuted probably the week after Braun Breaker. And then he wasn't given the opportunities that Braun Breaker was given. You know, as far as to be able to cut promos and be colorful and be energetic or anything like that. His character was a complete and total handcuff. Now, this is partially WWE creative. Well, I can't even say partially. I gotta say all of it. Because we don't know what else the kid can do. He's young. He's completely inexperienced to the wrestling business. Nobody knows who the kid is or what his voice sounds like or anything like that. We have nothing. Because WWE gave him nothing. So this is the one person that you can look on this list and say WWE absolutely screwed him. And they did it on purpose. They did it because of Paul Heyman, no doubt. And they do this to Paul Heyman projects all the time. So it's not like there was something special about him that they didn't like. It's whenever Paul Heyman has a special project, somebody that he really, really puts over, WWE starts to put the screws to him. Now, it's somebody there that hates Paul Heyman. Somebody there absolutely hates Paul Heyman. And everything that Paul Heyman touches, they poison. And it's happened so many times over the course of the last 20 years. Since 2002, since 2001, since Paul Heyman came over. Everything Paul Heyman has touched, somebody in WWE has poisoned it. He has not really been allowed to do too much of anything. SmackDown 6, poison. CM Punk, poison. They always try to get rid of whatever Paul Heyman seems to like. And Heyman talked about this kid way too much on Twitter. I know Paul Heyman was integral in helping him get a job. And maybe that was a problem. Maybe it was a whole thing about, Harlan had an ego or whatever the case may be. I don't know. But they put the screws to this guy on purpose. Now, Persia Parada, she was given a little bit more opportunities. I didn't see her and see that she was bad. I didn't look at Persia Parada and say that she was a bad promo or that she was a bad character. It just seems that she wasn't given enough time to grow. There was those solo matches that she had when she was doing handicap matches. I thought those were pretty impressive. She showed some good strength there. Her character work was clunky, as far as her promos and everything was kind of clunky. But of course, this is developmental. That stuff could have been ironed out in a year, couple of more months. She probably could have got better at that. And maybe if she was, put by herself or in a stable with somebody who is more experienced. I mean, Indy Hartwell has a year or two more experience than she does. And, as far as wrestling is concerned, if she was just given a little bit more experience, or put with somebody who had a little bit more experience, I think she could have came along so much better. I think it's going to be a missed opportunity. She's not done. Neither one of them are done. That's the positive thing. Harlan seems to have caught the eye of a lot of people. I know Court Bauer wants him. I'm sure, NWA may want him. There's going to be some guys who are going to really try to help this kid come along. Same thing with Persia Parada. She really wants to do the wrestling thing. So she's going to get an opportunity to go to do the loops, and maybe she'll be back. I think her and Harlan will likely be back at some point in the future. They're very young. Neither one of them, I think, is even over the age of 26. So they'll probably both be back at some point. Let's see. Sojourner George, I don't even know who that is. Blair Baldwin, I have no idea who that is. Raylan Devine, Mila Milani, don't know who they are. Draco Anthony is a Booker T student. He moved very awkward. He was a very somewhat bulky guy. I didn't really get anything out of him. Like, his promos weren't very good. They did some hype for him with the whole, I'm in the gym when everybody else is sleeping kind of thing. But he didn't seem to have a character or a persona or a personality or a voice that was his own. He was a very blank slate. And I can also say maybe he didn't get that much of an opportunity either. Like, he didn't have any feuds. He had a couple of matches, but he didn't really have any feuds. He didn't really get a chance to do anything. So we're kind of stuck here like, okay, he's a young guy. I think he was in the military. I think WWE tends to give those people a lot more opportunities if they're in the military because they're switching careers. So who knows? It might be, I know that he's, of course, a Booker T student, so that's another thing that I'm kind of like, wow. AQA, a Booker T student, was actually pretty good. She got cut. And now they've cut another Booker T student, which is Draco Anthony. It's like, they're almost saying they don't really like the reality of wrestling thing, but they also are pushing Roxanne at the same time, who is Roxy. So maybe he'll be back. Maybe he just needed more seasoning. Maybe his training wasn't done. Who knows? But that's very difficult. Now let's get to the more experienced talent. Dexter Loomis. Dexter Loomis was a surprise. A lot of people felt like Dexter Loomis was an NXT staple. Some people were saying like, he didn't get an opportunity to cut promos and show character and stuff like that. But I think he showed a lot of personality and a lot of character without doing the vocal part. Through his body language, he created a very interesting character that everybody was really kind of getting behind. Now, yes, I think that the horror movie villain, the stalkerish character, could have worked on the main roster, but maybe it was a little too scary. So they tried to soften the character up and put him in a lot of silly situations where an axe murderer wouldn't be. Like, this guy's literally, his gimmick was that he was an axe murderer. And it was played for laughs. He lived in a haunted house. He had an axe in his jacket during the wedding. The wedding is fantastic. I'm sorry. But I think when it comes to Dexter Loomis, it's just 100% age. If this guy was 28 instead of 38, I don't think he gets fired. But since he's 38, I think they just kind of decided, you know what? He's been here forever. There isn't really time to start him from scratch on the main roster. It doesn't seem like they're doing that with anybody. It seemed like, Damian Priest was probably the last guy who was over the age of 35. Him and Riddle were the last two guys where they just kind of said, you know what? This guy's nearly 40, and we're going to start him in from the bottom and work. And I think Ciampa, maybe Ciampa too, because I think he's like 35 or 36. But everybody else that's over the age of 35, LA Knight, they turned him into a manager, and Dexter Loomis, they released him. And it seems like that's kind of the way that they're going here is once you hit a certain age in NXT, you got to get out of there, and they keep you around for a little while in order to use you to get the younger people over, but then you got to go, and it seemed like, the Dexter Loomis and the LA Knights, they were the next step after Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly. And those guys aren't that old. Adam Cole is like 32 or 33. But, he went to go help work with his friends. Same thing with Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish and all those guys. They just wanted to go work with their friends. So that was sort of that thing, that you've been around for a long time. We're going to use your experience to build other people, but you're getting up there in age. Another thing was injuries with Dexter Loomis. He's also, injured a lot. He was injured for quite a while in 2021. He was gone for a while. But I enjoyed the Dexter Loomis character. I don't think we needed to hear him talk, and cut promos and try to be, charismatic like LA Knight and all that kind of stuff. I think that he was original in the way that he didn't talk, and he forced people to react to him. And there was a lot you could do with the Dexter Loomis character without him talking. And it's one of the few times where you can have a character that doesn't really need to talk. Like Undertaker didn't need to talk, and Dexter Loomis didn't need to talk. He can say and do a lot with his body language. So I think that him getting cut is 100% got to do with the age factor, and it's really unfortunate. Now, Malcolm Bivens and Dakota Kai. These were two things that really kind of blew the internet apart because we were in a situation where people were absolutely losing their minds, saying, how dare WWE fire Dakota Kai, bring Dakota Kai back right now? How could you not have anything for Malcolm Bivens? How could you do this? Bring him back right now. And then it came out not even a day later, I don't think, after everybody's, talked about how WWE is stupid and they're firing the wrong people and how could you not have anything for these people? It comes out, these people didn't want to re-sign contracts. Both of them wanted to go anyway. Dakota Kai, again, is the ghost of NXT past. She hadn't been doing anything. Her ticket was punched the moment she was getting all those tryouts on the main roster, and they decided to send her back to NXT. I knew it was over for her around that time. If they offered her a new contract, maybe they wanted her to turn her into a trainer. I don't know how old she is. I think she's pretty young too. She's not that old. She's not like 38 or anything like that, 37. She's probably over the age of 30, but probably just over 30. I don't see her as being a problem. She's well liked by everybody. And I don't really see anything. Like, to me, Dakota Kai was never anything special. She was okay, but she didn't jump superstar at me. She was a good wrestler in a business that is full of good wrestlers. And I know I say that a lot and people get real freaked out and pissed off about it, but good wrestler is not a character. It's not a gimmick. Captain Kick or Team Kick or King Kick or whatever the hell she was doing, it's not really that much of a character. Her being the backstabber, was great. As far as Tegan Knox and Candice LeRae and Raquel Gonzalez, that was great. That led to some really good stuff, but as far as her matches are concerned, but she didn't have much of a character. She didn't stand and talk and cut a promo. That was never her strong suit. So she's going to obviously find a spot in AEW, probably where she wanted to go anyway. And that's going to be, it seems to me that that's the place for all of the, I spent years on the indies kind of talents. Malcolm Bivens is another one. I spent years on the Indies. Why would I continue? And WWE obviously doesn't want to do that much with me, or they don't specialize in what I do. And being in that system, you can see that eventually it's coming. And therefore, you just decide to do your own thing. And it seemed like that's really what they were, that Bivens and Kai, that's what it seemed like to me. WWE doesn't really use managers. So it was interesting to have Malcolm Bivens on the roster for like a year and a half, maybe 2 years before he even appeared. I heard that they wanted him to be the manager for Amos, and then he turned it down, and then they wanted him to sign a contract. He turned it down, and he basically just wanted out anyway. And they decided, okay, well, you want out? There you go. He was one of the few people. Dakota Kai didn't really say it either, as far as thanking WWE for the opportunity and all that stuff. They didn't really go that route. At least I didn't see it. Maybe it did happen. I just didn't see it. But it seems like everybody with a history on the independents, WWE just kind of said, all right, you can go. Everybody except Roderick Strong. So Roderick Strong, it came out, what was this, maybe May 1st or maybe May 2nd, that Roderick Strong has been trying to get out of his NXT contract. And, he really, I think, just signed one last year. And they're not really letting him out. So this kind of explains the whole folding of Diamond Mine, that, not just because Bivens is gone, but now that, Roderick Strong is also trying to get out, and, they'll fire him eventually. They'll cut him. But I'm guessing, look, the long and the short of it is, the same thing I said about Dakota Kai, I could say about Roderick Strong. Roderick Strong was a staple in NXT. He goes back even further than Dakota Kai. I think he was even there in 2015, 2016 or something like that. He was one of the first real indie guys to really get in there on the ground floor at NXT. He had a fabulous feud with Robert Roode. He did excellent stuff as part of the Undisputed Era. But Roderick Strong cannot talk. And he has, absolutely no charisma. He has negative charisma. So if he goes to AEW, which is no doubt he will, he's not really going to add too much to that roster. He's just going to be another ROH guy in a company full of ROH guys, which might be what they want, and that's fine, but I don't see why WWE is holding on to him. If the guy wants to go, cut him. As far as I'm concerned, he went over to NXT UK. He had the match with Ilya Dragunov. It was a good match. He lost that match. It was a short run, maybe they tried to turn him into a trainer too. And he was just kind of like, no, I'm not done. They're trying to turn these guys into trainers, because they have all this indie experience, but they don't have the star power. And maybe that's, kind of offensive to these people, man. Like, they're young. They're not old, washed up folks. Roderick Strong has been doing this for a long time, but he's not an old man, He's not like 45 or anything like that. So for a guy who is still in good cardio condition, who can go out there and work, and why would he waste his formative year? Well, not formative years. Those would be his younger years. His remaining years as a trainer in WWE. Like, yes, it's a solid job. It's a a good job for sure. But if you feel like you still have to fire, it's a Scotty 2 Hotty situation. He was older than Roderick Strong is, and I can see WWE trying to maybe push him to be a trainer or something like that. And he's just kind of like, no, like, I'm in great shape, and look, I'm doing the best I can, but you're just not interested in what I'm doing. You're not selling what I make. So just cut me loose and let me go do my own thing. And now WWE is being WWE and saying no. I don't see the point in that. I say let them go. I'm 90% of the time, I'm going to be on the side of the talent who says, look, you should be out of there. You should be ready to go. If you want to leave the company, you should be able to put in a notice and say, I want to go. And then they should cut you loose. That should be how it goes. Of course, contracts are not, don't operate that way. But Roderick Strong leaving NXT, is it a big loss for NXT? Considering NXT lost a lot of talent, veteran talent, with Kushida leaving, now, Dakota Kai being cut and Loomis being cut and Bivens leaving and Cole and O'Reilly. And yes, that's it's a big loss. But in the grand scheme of things, you won't miss Roderick Strong on NXT. You're not going to miss him. If WWE is going to replace all of these talents that, refuse to stick around and help, like a Ember Moon or a Roderick Strong, they refuse to stick around, then WWE is just going to send some people from Raw and SmackDown down there, and which they have been doing, and they have found that to be something that actually works, because those guys who are working on Raw and SmackDown who already have a spot, they like the idea of being able to help younger talent. And I'm just saying, that's great. It's a win-win. Now we can cut Roderick Strong if he wants to get cut. That's my opinion. All right, so that's my discussion on all of the NXT releases. All right, let's get into the NXT, the show. All right, so this show was solid. It was a solid show. I honestly thought maybe the main event was the weakest part of the show, but then they continued us along with a little bit of surprise at the end. But let's talk about it from top to bottom. The show opens with a shot of a booty in cutoff shorts, and I was like, I'm thinking like the opening to like Baywatch or something like that. And then I'm like, okay, they're really leaning in to piss people off about the whole Ember Moon, scantily dressed women. And then they spin around, and it's goddamn Pretty Deadly. Talk about, yes, boy. I was like, oh, I wanted to choke both of them. Like, just smack them across the face like the Three Stooges. At the same time, like, whop, whop. I hate these fucking guys. Which means that they're doing a good job, because I hate them not in a channel changing way, but in they are fucking annoying kind of way. And the way that the one of them, I forget which one of them it is, he wears like a cutoff shirt with his midriff is showing, and the other one has a Tupac tied in the front joint. Oh, it's so obnoxious. Oh, I hate these two fucking guys so much. Oh, and they're featuring a lot of Pretty Deadly on this show. They've been giving these guys a hell of a run. They've been letting Pretty Deadly run with it. But a lot of people got a kick out of the cold open with Pretty Deadly. So a lot of people liked it. I was kind of like, it's a nice little showcase for them, I guess, But they tricked us, making us think that it was girl booty. It wasn't. It was boy booty. And I'm not a fan of that. Not a fan of boy booty at all. All right, the first match was probably the match of the night. Carmelo Hayes, Solo Sikoa, Cameron Grimes for the North American title. This match was so hot. The crowd was super hot for Solo Sikoa, which is very strange because he took the pin in this match. And like, WWE has the oddest decision making. Look, guys can lose, that's fine. But you have a triple threat match, and the guy who's the most over is the one who takes the pin. And it's not like they didn't know he was going to be the most over. He's been the most over guy of these three for the last 2 or 3 weeks. Anyway, the match was very good. It had some really awesome spots in it. The Uso splash, false finish with the save was absolutely crazy. Because I was like, man, Cameron Grimes just won the belt, and now he's about to lose it. And then Carmelo Hayes saved him. So it was excellent. This was a masterclass in pro wrestling right here. This was very good. I enjoyed all of this. So then we get our ridiculous segment. Mandy Rose is going to get a tan. She's talking to Toxic Attraction, obviously, telling them, oh, well, why don't you guys meet me here instead of meeting at the beach, yada, yada, yada. She goes into the tanning bed. Wendy Choo, who wears pajamas everywhere, sneaks into the tanning booth because apparently nobody pays attention to this kind of thing. There's no attendance or security of any kind. I've never been in a tanning booth, so I don't know. She turns the tanning thing all the way up, and she comes out looking like turkey bacon. And Toxic Attraction is grossed out by how Mandy looks and said that she looks like a strawberry. Mandy says, okay, how about we stay in the house? And Toxic Attraction is like, no. Like, you stay in the house, we're going out. Now, this was good to, inform about the characters, which is what I care about. Was this corny and terrible? Yes, it was absolutely. I want to throw Wendy Choo into the nearest river. But this was a good character thing because we see that Toxic Attraction is so vain that if you have a bad tan, they don't want to hang out with you. You know, like Mandy is the leader of this group and got dumped because she had a bad tan. Like that's incredibly vain for a group of females, but it's actually not that much of a surprise. So, Toxic Attraction, the JC Jane and Gigi Dolan, they decided to go to the beach without Mandy. As they're going to the beach, they actually start to think, that Mandy thing is pretty screwed up, wasn't it? Like, yeah, she looked like uncooked turkey bacon. And then all of a sudden, they came up and said, this is probably Wendy Chu. She's been stalking us. Then, of course, they chitter-chatter about how everybody's stalking them. Everybody loves them, yada, yada, yada. And they go swimming in the ocean. So while they go swimming, Roxanne and Wendy Chu are stalking them, literally watching them with binoculars like this is some type of 1980s cartoon. So they decide to steal their shoes and car keys. And therefore they do. Roxanne Perez, rather. She was, she's the goody two shoes here. She's like, she's all mincing about it. I should be going to train for the breakout tournament. And Wendy Chu was like, this is training. Because she's the mischievous trickster type. This is very archetypal, by the way. Wendy Chu is playing games. Even the irreverence of her wearing pajamas is part of the trickster archetype. So they steal the shoes and they basically play keep away from Toxic Attraction, have them running across the beach barefoot. And then they have them run across the concrete barefoot, and the concrete is all heated up, so it's hot. And then they have to pretend that that they're walking through, lava or, hot coals. Ouch, 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 ouch. I was like, it's just so over the top and it's so corny. I did not like the Wendy Chu segments. Not a fan of the Wendy Chu segments. Her being so irreverent that she wears pajamas in public, it's absolutely absurd. Look, it's lovely character stuff. Yes, like Kane wears his mask in public. So does Mil Mascaras. So why wouldn't Wendy Chu carry her teddy bear and sip from her sippy cup or whatever the hell and wear her pajamas in public? Why wouldn't she? It's her gimmick. It's literally her gimmick. But there is just something so obnoxious about a grown woman in a onesie and footy slippers at the beach. It is incredibly obnoxious. That being said, Gigi Dolan's booty butt cheeks were out. And I know that there was somebody trying to find the nearest internet website in order to complain. They probably went to Reddit and was talking about how Johnny Ace made her wear butt thongs. And they had to have a special meeting about it. And Gigi Dolan was singled out and said, you need to wear a thong so your ass is out. That is necessary for this scene. And it was a jingling and jangling. And she had some jingling and jangling going on there. I'm sure all of the hall monitors on Twitter absolutely pitched a bitch, had a stroke, threw a fit, collapsed, clutched their pearls. All the Maud Sanders of the wrestling community that are so upset that women are kissing and wearing bikinis at the beach. I guess everybody should dress like Wendy Chu. Everybody should be wearing brown paper bags and full body pajamas. That's what they should be doing. But I didn't like the Wendy Chu stuff. It just seems over the top to me. It's also very cartoonish. But just like like I said, it fits the character that they've created for her, which is that she's, this prank puller. She's making fun of the trickster works when the opponent that they have or the person that they're making fun of has authority. This is why when you to veer off into the wokeness a little bit, people say that comedy is really good when you're punching up. This is where, you're only supposed to make jokes about white males or whatever, because that's the hierarchy of society or whatever. But if you listen to like Dave Chappelle comedy, some of the funniest stuff he'd ever done was on people who were on the bottom rungs of society, making fun of other black people, making fun of the poor, poor black people. If you can make fun of them in a way to which they laugh with you. If you've ever seen the Michael Jackson Remember the Time video, that was the concept of the jester, where you have the king, who is Eddie Murphy, and he is looking for people to entertain him, and then Michael Jackson kind of mocks him a little bit, by flirting with his wife, saying, "Do you remember the time when we fell in love?" And he's like, "What?" He can't take a joke, even though I don't think it was a joke. In any event, Eddie Murphy and his perch tries to kill Michael Jackson because he was being offensive. That's the difference between, the Joker and the jokester, the trickster and the target. So in this context, you have Wendy Chu, who is the jokester, the trickster, the comedian, and Mandy Rose, who is the champion. She's the top of the industry or whatever, or top of the food chain in NXT. And she's being made fun of and being mocked and humiliated by somebody who, as far as we know, isn't even really a legitimate, viable contender. But she's got nerve. She's got audacity. And the trickster, the purpose of the trickster is to reveal what we call revealing truth. In other words, it's the trickster that says the emperor is wearing no clothes. It's the trickster that reveals all the corruption within the city or within the crown or whatever the case may be. Now, in this instance, it was Wendy Chu who revealed how vain that Toxic Attraction is, and they're probably not real friends, because Mandy looked bad. They didn't want to hang out with her. So we learned that, Mandy, despite the fact that she's the singular champion, she doesn't have complete control over the group. Her image is an important part of the group. Mandy being the baddest bitch in the world, being perfect in pretty much every single way, is an important piece to the group, to the character of the group. And if she doesn't even fit, she doesn't fit the mold, they don't want anything to do with her, which kind of makes sense in terms of how the group was formed in the first place. So that was a long-winded way of explaining how this stuff, despite the fact that it's bad storytelling, that it's bad material, I should say, is good storytelling. So there that go. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Nathan Fraser, he cut one of those my dream promos by saying 10-year-old him is freaking out right now because this is what he's been waiting for all of his life, and he's going to wrestle Grayson Waller. Now, Nathan Fraser's theme song, like I said, is an absolute banger, and I'm glad to see so many people on Twitter that was like, wait a minute, his theme song is excellent. Like, yes, it is. Tremendous. And watch they change it. They're going to change it, brother. They will not let you have nice things. You will not have nice things. Some MTV guy was there to see Grayson Waller. I don't know who that guy is. So Grayson Waller was playing around with the set, sitting in the chairs, ripping up the beach ball. It was very interesting. This match exposed Grayson Waller a lot because you have in this guy, Nathan Fraser, he is greased lightning. He's so fast and he's so fluid that he made Grayson Waller look like he was, trying to figure it out on the fly. Like he looked lost in comparison, and you can really tell that Grayson Waller is a decent wrestler, but he doesn't have a lot of experience. So when he gets in there and somebody is so fast and fluid as Nathan Fraser, he gets a little lost. This is the first time that I've thought, Grayson Waller looked really bad in the ring. And it still wasn't a bad match, but I was like, holy shit. He looks like he's 10 steps behind Nathan Fraser. Like, Fraser has to, the Flash, He's in that bitch like the Flash, you know what I'm saying? Like, he's got to slow it down. So either Waller has to speed up or Fraser has to slow down. Now, I'm guessing from the way I look at talent, they're going to tell Fraser to slow it down because he's entirely too fast. He's doing things entirely too fast. It also exposed a lot of Waller's ridiculous offense, like him having to be outside the ring to do his finish. It's stupid. I like the one move he did. It was kind of like a flipping kill switch. That was sweet. I don't see how he could. Why can't he use that as a finish? It looks like he could do that to anybody. The setup might be a little contrived, but it's got to be better than that whole running and rolling into the ring bit that he has to do. I hate that fucking finish. He did another version of it where he slid outside the ring and do a clothesline. It actually looked pretty good, but very strange. So the finish, top rope, Grayson Waller and Nathan Fraser at the top rope. Fraser falls. Andre Chase blows a horn. That distracts Grayson Waller. He falls from the top rope. Phoenix Splash, beautifully done. 1, 2, 3. Nathan Fraser wins. And now Nathan Fraser is still hanging out with Chase U. I am not a fan. I do not like Andre Chase. Not a big fan of Andre Chase at all, but people seem to like him. The crowd seems to really like Andre Chase. They have bad taste. The NXT audience notoriously has poor taste. Really poor taste. And they continue to show that they have no taste by being fans of ... Andre Chase. Jesus. So, Roderick Strong. Bivens is gone. So Roderick Strong is saying, look, I'm in control of Diamond Mine and his word is law. You know, if you got a problem with it, take it up with him. The Creed brothers, you know, they're kind of not on board. They took it on the chin. Ivy Nile didn't say anything, didn't do anything. But you know, it seems like Roderick Strong, who's still there, at least temporarily, is going to be ruling Diamond Mine with an iron fist. I'm not sure he's the guy to do the vocal work. But I don't think this is going to last very long. Just being honest. I think once people see how bad Roderick Strong is at promos, you'll have to bring somebody in to cut the promos, or we'll have to do something else. Okay, so I don't think this is going to last very long. I think the Creed brothers are going to end up beating him up within the next month. Speaking of which, the Creed brothers wrestled the Viking Raiders. The Viking Raiders had a conversation earlier where they talked about being in NXT and that the Creeds are world-class athletes, but training in the gym is not enough for the fight that they will be bringing. Pretty Deadly then interrupted to sort of make fun of the Viking Raiders and the Creed brothers. Then the Viking Raiders threatened to kick their asses by saying that, hey, we may stick around to get our hands on you. And then, you know, Pretty Deadly was like, no, and excused themselves from this whole situation. So we had a bit of a hard-hitting tag team match, the Viking Raiders versus the Creed brothers. This is another match in which the Creed brothers looked very good. They also had them very casually kicking out of one of the Viking Raiders' finishes. They seemed like the natural successors, natural opponents for the Viking Raiders. It was a really solid match. And I really am impressed by how far the Creed brothers have come along so short. Like, I was super impressed with them the first time I saw them. But now they're wrestling actual mature tag teams that have experience. And they're not looking too lost. In fact, their match was really good. You know, so this was good. Now, I was surprised to see the Viking Raiders lose. Because normally that's not what you come down to NXT to do. But they wrapped it in story by having Roderick Strong take a cheap shot on one of the Viking Raiders. I think it was Eric, while the referee's back was turned. And then the basement lariat came and the Creed brothers won. Then the Creed brothers see the replay on the screen and they start barking at Roderick Strong, who helped them win, and they didn't want to win that way. And Strong is like, look, you guys won. He shut the hell up and be thankful that you won. So the schism that was created out of nowhere, if we're being honest, for Roderick Strong is continuing. This time they just took Bivens out of the conversation. So it's the Creed brothers and Roderick Strong. Now he's going to need a partner of some description. He's going to need a friend of some description, right? Who could that possibly be? So we're in a tough situation here where he's probably going to end up wrestling one of these guys, probably both of them in singles matches. But when it comes to doing tag situations, what is he going to do? You know, how is he going to keep them in line? So that's going to be an interesting situation. And plus, you know, I think that they will eventually cut Roderick Strong loose. So I'm trying to figure out how to, like, you could do a hard cut, which is what they did in the next thing, where they had Duke Hudson and Indy Hartwell. Indy Hartwell is staring at her phone, sad, scrolling through Twitter or Instagram or anything, other things that you scroll on the internet.com. And Duke Hudson just saunters in. He looks sad too. And they look sad at one another. And I think Duke Hudson got a little bit closer. And then they looked at each other and they were like, oh, hell no. They went back to not liking each other. So that was a subtle acknowledgement that Dex and Persia are gone. It's like, there was a subtle acknowledgement that Bivens was gone. They do a good job of, acknowledging it without acknowledging it. You acknowledge it, but you don't spend a lot of time talking about it, So they basically said, hey, we know that these people are gone, but these characters are still affected by, these other characters being gone. So at least we can tell that Duke Hudson still exists, and Persia Parada leaving actually bothered him, and Dexter Loomis being gone bothers Indy Hartwell. But we should be doing some stuff with them. Maybe not together, but maybe telling some stories. Maybe they need to go on that beach with West Lee and look out, like, the Randy Savage meme where they sitting on the rocks staring off into the distance. Like, where did Dexter go? I don't know. We know where Dexter went. He went home, sweetheart. They stepped talking about the breakout tournament. Fallon Henley. Apparently, her character that she's a small town girl. Okay, they said her family owned a ranch, that they sold it to buy the bar, but she kept her favorite horse, Luna. So her character is that she ride horses, and she's a small town girl who likes to hang out at the bar. Her family owns the bar, and she hangs out at the bar, and she hangs out with Briggs and Jensen. Okay, why did she hang out with Briggs and Jensen? I don't know. Speaking of them weirdos, we got another weird promo from Jensen and the doctor and everything. So Briggs is telling Jensen he needs to get it together, man. He's gonna be all right. So the doctor looks at Jensen's hand and says to him, normally this would take 10 to 12 weeks. And he says, is there any reason why your right hand is stronger than your left? And then everybody groans because we know what that means. We talk about a character who is, permanently horny and trying to get his rock off. And we're talking about why one of his hands are stronger than the other. So, they come down to it that he's right-handed. That's why his right hand is stronger than the left hand. And a bunch of people in the world are right-handed, so it's not that big of a deal. And it says he's going to have 6 to 8 weeks to recover. I was like, the Briggs and Jensen stuff is usually the worst part of the show. Also, the breakout tournament should be fun. I don't know everybody who's going to be in it, but there's enough chicks in it for it to be fun, so that ought to be great. Let's see, what more do we got here? This was actually not a lot in this show. If we look at it, it's basically a lot of wrestling on this show, to be quite honest. It's basically a work rate show. The sit down, Legado del Fantasma and Tony D and his boys. All right, so first they argue about AJ Galante being there because Santos Escobar says it's only supposed to be family, no extra guys. Tony says that Galante is his consigliere, and then Gangster explains to Santos Escobar, who knows what a consigliere is. He's significantly older than Tony D'Angelo. Tony D'Angelo says that they're very powerful guys, and they got off on the wrong foot, and he's even willing to overlook the disrespect. Then he says that, they're businessmen. And then Santos Escobar says, no. I respect you, but, as a businessman, people in the streets know they can trust Santos Escobar. You can't be trusted. You like to play games. All the games you playing with the dead fish and the boot on the truck, all that stuff. And Tony D'Angelo kind of smiles a little bit, says that, craps is a game. Blackjack is a game. This is not a game. then they come to the agreement that there's enough room in NXT for both of them to expand. And this is Tony D'Angelo's idea. And Santos Escobar said, look, you're trying to build your family from scratch. I'm building upon something that already existed. You should just follow my lead. Tony D'Angelo pulls a Sonny from The Godfather and says, I'm the Don of NXT. I'm not following anybody. He kind of showed his hand. He got really emotional. And Santos Escobar kind of backed off of that. They said that peace is best for business. You know, Tony says peace is best for Santos's business. Santos says peace is better for Tony's business. They have a toast and they apologize to one another for being dumbasses. And they agree to a truce. And I wrote down Tony D'Angelo is going to break this truce immediately. And that's what I figured was going to happen. But boy, did I get swerved, because I should have known better. They were in the NXT parking lot. And so therefore, you know what that means. NXT parking lot, you know what that means. That means Legado del Fantasma is about to kidnap a motherfucker. And surely they do. AJ Galante is walking, I'm guessing, to his car, minding his own business, being a very nice guy. I mean, come on. He's a mafia figure, and he's out by himself at night. Come on. You should know something bad was about to happen to this guy. I've seen not every gangster movie. I kind of stopped watching those. But I've seen a lot of gangster movies. I know that's one thing you don't do is hang out by yourself at night near cars as a gangster. It's not a good thing to do. So, Santos Escobar goes over and introduces himself to AJ Galante. Says that you're a very lucky guy, and Tony's a very lucky guy to have you on his team. Then he knees him in the balls. And he's almost laughing as he puts him in the back of the truck. As Legado del Fantasma speed up, and it's like something out of fucking Grand Theft Auto. It shuffles him in the back seat of the car. Like, holy shit. Like, there is no babyface in this situation. It's like two heels trying to out-heel each other. Now look, AJ Galante isn't some innocent guy. You know, he's a mafia figure in NXT. You know, we were told he was somebody important. So we're in a situation where there's no babyface. You know, like they agreed to a truce. And then Escobar immediately broke the truce. Immediately. You know, like, yes, we get it. This was absolutely silly. But I think this is a good way of showing that Escobar, despite the fact that the crowd likes him, he's not going soft. You know, he's not going to be the stepping stone for Tony D. You know, Tony D ain't about to become the Don of NXT fully and in no easy way. He's gonna make it very difficult for him. So this was okay. I think the sit down was all right. I think it was ill timed, of course. We should have done the sit down after they had, one of the first few blow ups. But they were just sending messages to one another. The boot on the car, the fish, everything. It was kind of a message. But now Santos Escobar has, raised the stakes by, kidnapping the consigliere of Tony D Enterprises. This is very weird. It's fucking hilarious. All right. Kaylee Ray says that she's gonna, face her heritage or some such shit, and she's gonna bring the fire next week. I'm like, all right, whatever. Do whatever it is you feel you need to do, sweetheart. All right, Cora Jade and Nikita Lyons defeat Lash Legend and Natalya. This match was better than I actually thought it would be, to be quite honest, and it made me want to see, and I can't believe I'm going to say this. Don't hold this against me, but I'm interested in a Nikita Lyons Natalya match. Just watching them do basic wrestling stuff. I'm talking, arm drags, not arm drags, but like the arm ringers with the kip up and, exchanging holds, headlocks and stuff. It's like, it was good. It's throwback stuff. Like, not a lot of stuff you see these days. And it helped the crowd really get into the match, even though they kind of started to peter out near the end. But it was really solid shit. Lash Legend didn't look horrible here. Cora Jade didn't look off. Yes, Nikita Lyons and Natalya, basically carried it, but it looked solid. Cora Jade wins the match with the flying senton from the top rope. This was following Natalya kicking Lash Legend in the face by accident, so I'm guessing they have the ability to turn Lash Legend babyface, maybe, by her blaming Natalya for losing. Or, maybe turn Natalya by having Lash Legend jump her from behind or something. But the former is more likely than the latter. But Nikita Lyons continues to impress and show that she's more than just how she looks. Like her striking probably needs some help, because we know she can't lay her shit in, but her strikes are not terrible. Like she's created a nice little combination for herself that she used on Natalya, and Natalya took a great bump with it. But so this match was very solid. It was very solid, surprisingly solid. And I enjoyed it. I'm not even gonna hold you up. I thought this wasn't too bad. This is actually better than I thought it was gonna be. On to the main event. The main event, Joe Gacy versus Braun Breaker for the NXT Championship. So, John, there was a space of Joe Gacy's introduction, which was in black and white. So, backstage, Braun Breaker goes over to the breaker and clicks it on, and the lights come back on. His music starts, and I was like, I get it. I know what a breaker is. A power, it powers the house. I get it. I know what it means. Very on the nose there, Sean. So Joe Gacy, they basically just decided, you know what, we can. we made Bray Wyatt. We can make another one, and so make another Fiend. They decided Joe Gacy is the new Bray Wyatt, and basically he that's what this is. And that's the sad part, is because, the characters are so similar that people are going to, no doubt, just say that Gacy is ripping off Wyatt. And to a degree, we see that he kind of is he's a Bray Wyatt tribute band, from what we can see. And I'm pretty sure Bray Wyatt himself is looking at that and laughing. He's not quite Rick Bogner as Razor Ramon. He's not that bad. He still has, some original elements to his character. But we can see that the direction that they're going with Joe Gacy is going to be basically Bray Wyatt-ish. Now, before this match, Gacy says that people are fearing change, but that change can be intimidating, but it is necessary, and that we're on the precipice of a new beginning, and that you should fear what will happen if I don't win the NXT Championship. But fear not, because I will win the NXT title, and tonight I changed the world. And he did no such thing. He lost. He lost via spear. The match was fine. I'm not going to say the match was terrible, but it was theatrics. It was a lot of theatrics, which, informs the story of the match. Gacy does lose a little bit of something without Harland, because he needs a heavy. It would be nice if we could just put Von Wagner in a mask and put him behind Gacy. Like, that would be fine. Von Wagner looking like Conan the Barbarian by the face, is completely, it's a distraction. Put a mask on him. Put some type of appendage over his face, so we can't really see how Cro-Magnon he looks and how boring he is. There's got to be somebody around there. Some big guy that can fill Harlan's shoes. All right. In any event, Gacy worked this entire match in his principal gear, looking like a camp counselor, and didn't break a sweat. He wasn't like overly sweaty and anything like that. The crowd was not as into this as they were in the first match, or the Creed Brothers match, or even the women's tag team match. This was probably the match that got the weakest crowd reaction of the show. That's very hard. And I think it has a lot to do with Gacy being the contender out of nowhere, instead of being built up over time. They just kind of entered Gacy into this story. And you can do that sometimes. You can't do that in this instance, because Gacy was not over. He wasn't as over as he should have been going into it. In addition to it, you took his heater away. So, you kind of set him up for failure. But at the same time, we're in a very interesting time because after Gacy loses, there were some shadow figures that popped up on the ring apron. So now Gacy's plan B is his kill switch is about to kick in. He didn't win the NXT title, so now there has to be something else. The thing we were supposed to fear if he didn't win now has to occur. And I'm interested in that. I'm interested in who these guys were in the hoods. I'm guessing it's more NXT UK talent. Let's see, who else could it be? Maybe Gallus. I'm sure there's a lot of guys over in NXT UK that are pretty much done, and they really aren't doing anything else. And there are some spots open in NXT now, so you can bring a tag team over. It seems like it's going to be another tag team, another 2 guys. I love that about NXT, though. They're bringing guys in pairs and teaming them up. So now that the tag team division looks pretty thick. Like Tony D'Angelo already brought in 2 guys. Santos Escobar has 2 guys. And now Gacy's about to bring in 2 guys. So, and then Pretty Deadly just showed up. So, MSK may be gone, but it's not like the division is dead because MSK is gone. It's like, okay, they're doing a good job of making sure that there's more talent out there and new, fresh, intriguing matchups for them to partake in. So I'm interested in all of this. Gacy needs more time to work his gimmick. He also needs to be a little bit more pointed in the things that he's saying, but I've heard that he did something similar to this in CZW. I'm not a connoisseur of CZW, and I did not look at anything that he did on the Independents because I just don't see how the character will be the same. But if somebody said that he's doing a similar gimmick to what he was doing on the Independents. So I will probably take a look at it and then report back what I find. But I heard that he was doing something similar, and that maybe that's the direction we're going into now. Is now that he's lost, the veneer is going to crack, and he's going to be more violent than ever. That would actually be awesome. That would actually be awesome. So I'm actually looking forward to that. But it sucks that Harland, who is an important part of this character, was taken away unceremoniously, not written off the screen, just vanished. And I think he definitely lost a lot when it comes to that. All in all, the show was very solid. The triple threat match was fantastic. Grayson Waller and Nathan Fraser was pretty good. The women's tag team match was pretty good. The tag team match between the Creed brothers and the Viking Raiders was good. So, Braun and Gacy were kind of was pretty weak. No real strong talking segments this week, which is unfortunate. I also didn't they didn't further the Grayson Waller Tiffany Stratton story. It seemed like they just kind of, I don't want to say dropped it, but it would have been a perfect time to utilize Tiffany Stratton in this context, of him wrestling Nathan Fraser. Maybe she'll be re-entered into the story afterwards. And maybe they'll do a thing where Saray goes to chase you and she's involved with that. Because she is wearing a schoolgirl outfit now. So maybe they're going to put her in school. She's going to be the foreign exchange student. She and Nathan Fraser are going to be the foreign exchange students in Andre Chase University. That's absolutely ridiculous. But it may yield some comedy. The Japanese are pretty liberal when it comes to comedy. And maybe since Kushida is gone, Ikemen Jiro can also be in this whole thing. Or maybe they can repackage him. I don't know, because being a jacket guy, I don't know if that's a successful winning idea. Hey, who are you? I'm the jacket guy. I like jackets. But overall, it was a fun show. I'm interested in, if they're going to still be doing call-ups, because Carmelo Hayes, what do we do with this guy? He's a fucking star. He's a tremendous wrestler. Does he got next against Braun? He didn't lose, so he could easily just say he didn't lose. And maybe he got next on Braun. What does Gacy do next? Natalia clearly isn't done in NXT. So I'm pretty sure Cora Jade is going to get a piece. But I want Nikita Lyons to get some too. So I'm not not too upset about that. What do we do with Lash Legend? There's a lot of questions floating around this joint afterwards. Why does Wendy Choo actually sleep in pajamas? Or does she just wear them as clothes and then she sleeps in like lingerie or something like that? I'm very interested in that question, and NXT won't answer it for me. I wish they would. But thank you guys for listening. Like and share this video. Subscribe to this channel. Thank you to everybody who has been a long-time subscriber. And I will talk to you guys later. Peace out.
MagMongoSlade. Best house I ever drew, Daddy.